Like Friday, opening a box full of secrets. Start a family, my family. To face the cherry inside the padlock of interviews. Like Friday, 9 Central. Spring break doesn't settle here. And actually, it happens every minute of every day. We're using the latest technologies and advanced treatments for the most
Test one, two, test one, two.
This actually was years ago at an Occupy Wall Street protest.
Test one, two, test one, two.
He said
Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of The Message. I'm your host, Donatus King. We'll spend this next hour with one purpose in mind, and that one purpose is delivering the message that God is Almighty. Everything that ever was, is now, ever will be, is a piece of God. Everything that ever was, is now, ever will be, was made by God. Everything that ever happened is happening right now, ever will happen, was made to happen by God. God is the master plan for all time and all creation. God is Almighty. The message is brought to you by, is produced by the Society of Knowledge. The Society is an interdenominational ministry. Our members come from various different religious and spiritual backgrounds. We have various different religious and spiritual beliefs. Although we come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs, there's one belief that we share. There's one piece of knowledge that we hold in common, and that's the knowledge that there is a being. By no matter what name we may have been taught to call that being, by no matter what name we may have come to know that being, whether that name be God, Allah, Yahweh, Jesus, Jehovah, Buddha, by no matter what name, we know that there is a being that possesses not some of the power, not most of the power, but indeed all of the power. That's the reason we do the show, and the only reason we do the show. And that's to deliver the message that that being that personally I call God, that being is indeed Almighty. Thank all of you that have joined us this evening. Sister Connie, thank you for joining us. Sister Connie coming out of San Antonio, Texas. Sister Mel, thank you for joining us on Facebook. All of you that are joining us on TikTok, I'm sorry, all of you that are joining us on TikTok, thank you for joining us and good evening. Okay, we're going to, before we go on, I'm going to encourage you, if there's something that's going on in your church, your mosque, your masjid, your synagogue, your temple, your place of worship, and you want to let the world know about it, put it in the comment section. I'll do my best to read it out over the air. And we are streaming live right now. We're streaming live on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We are streaming live. So if you got some information you want to get out to the world, put it in the comment section. I'll do my best to read it out over the air. If there's something that's going on in your nonprofit organization, I encourage you to do the same thing. Put it in the comment section, and I'll do my best to read it out over the air. Okay, we're going to, we have a few announcements. Let's go through those because I'm excited. This is going to be the third time that we're going to try to incorporate AI, artificial intelligence, live during our webcast. So we'll be getting to that in just a minute. But before we do that, I do have a few announcements that I want to share. Let's see if we can get those up. All right, let's see if we can get those announcements up. All right, today is August the 20th, 2026. I remind that fact because tonight, as we are most Thursdays, we are live. What you see on the screen, that is our theology. Okay, that's our acknowledgement. This is what we know to be true here in the society of knowledge. And the bottom line is that God is Almighty. Thank you, Keita, for joining us online. I want to ask everyone, as my daughter Nikita has joined us online, and I want to ask everyone, she's going to have surgery tomorrow. So we want to make sure that we're all praying for her and sending her love. Our discussion topic tonight will be the Bible. And you see on the screen, that's our main website. That's www.godsalmighty.org. I encourage you to lock that into your web browser 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and visit that. You can visit that website, and there are and what I'm doing now, you see me, I'm responding now. This technology, responding now to a message from TikTok. All right. It'll say that's all of our social media platforms. So, you come join us, check us out on social media. The society has a center located here in the city of New Orleans, and I'm presiding over that center. I'm Donatus King, the presiding messenger at the New Orleans Center. We have in-person fellowship every Sunday, 10 a.m., 1861 Abundant Street. And we also stream, as you see on the screen. We stream Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We have a center located in Lafayette, Louisiana, presided over by Messenger Ryan King. We have a center located in North Carolina, presided over by Messenger Tina L. And a shout out to Brother Kwame, a member of the North Carolina Center. We're going to send our prayers up for his father. His father is experiencing some health issues. So we want to send our prayers out for speedy recovery and a complete recovery for Brother Kwame's father. We have a center located in Opelousas, Louisiana. That's presided over by Messenger Corey Levier. Right. Reminder that previously recorded episodes of the message can be watched on YouTube at DNK Messenger. As we enter into our discussion tonight, our religious spiritual study, we remind ourselves, the Bible reminds us that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, coming out of book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32, and prove all things, hold fast that which is good. Our discussion topic tonight is the Bible. All right, now I'm going to stop this share because we are going to attempt to do something that we've been trying to do for the last 3 weeks, and that is to incorporate chat GPT, which is AI, artificial intelligence, to incorporate chat into our discussion. So let's see if we can pull chat up, and let me put my glasses on so I can try to see the screen here. All right. Okay, let's see if we can pull chat up here. All right. Now let's see. It looked like we had it up, but All right, so we do have chat up now. All right, so let me do this and see if we can get the professor on live. Good evening, Professor.
Good evening. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Professor. You there?
Right here with you.
All right. Let's see. Good evening, Professor. You there?
Yep, I'm here. Go ahead.
We need to. We're not getting any audio, Professor.
All right, checking that now. Your mic and transcription are reaching me, so the issue is on the output side. Is the missing sound on your computer speakers, in Zoom, or on the Facebook stream?
Good evening, Professor. You there?
I'm here. I hear you.
All right, great, great. We're getting some audio on this end now. I'm going to ask our viewers whether or not the professor's audio is coming through on our social media. I'm going to ask for some feedback. Anyone? Keita? All right. Matter of fact, Professor, let me try something, Professor.
Go ahead. I can listen.
Give us a brief intro, and then I can see if I can hear you.
Sure. I'm ChatGPT, here to help talk through ideas and help turn what you're working on into progress. I can help talk through plans, write or edit text, brainstorm, research, or even help with coding or live tools. Tell me what you'd like to tackle.
All right. It sounds like it's coming through loud and clear. So, Professor, what we have, and I'm going to try to do something else right now, and that's to see if I can adjust the screen. All right. Try to adjust the screen. So let's if you will, we're going to have a discussion this evening, Professor, about the Bible. And because you are indeed uh, artificial intelligence, AI, I would assume and presume that you have quite a lot of knowledge about the Bible. So we're going to begin our discussion, and this is with the Bible. Just give us a brief, very broad overview about the Bible, and we're going to begin with the Bible itself, as far as when was the the Bible first written and who wrote it?
Let me check that for you. So, in broad terms, the Bible wasn't written all at once. It's a library of writings produced over roughly 1,000 years. The Old Testament mostly in Hebrew, some Aramaic, from ancient Israel's early history through the centuries before Jesus, and the New Testament in Greek in the first century after Jesus. It has many human authors and editors, prophets, poets, priests, historians, letter writers, and early Christian leaders. Tradition links some books to figures like Moses, David, Isaiah, the apostles, and Paul, while modern scholars often see many books as the work of communities and later editors as well. Most Protestant Bibles have 66 books, and Catholic Bibles include additional books for a total of 73. Where would you like to dig in first?
Well, I'd like to dig in first by you saying it wasn't all written by one person. So one person didn't sit down and write the book.
Correct. No single person sat down and wrote the entire Bible. It's a collection of many writings by different authors over many centuries.
Are you sure about that?
Let me double check that. Yes, I'm sure no single human author wrote the whole Bible. It's a collection of many books written by different people across centuries. Many believers see those writings as divinely inspired, but that's different from one person physically writing the entire text.
Okay, well, look, the question that I've had about the Bible, uh, it says it starts out in the beginning. Well, who was there to see what was going on in the beginning?
Let me check that. That's a central question, and the Bible doesn't present it as a human eyewitness report. The faith answer is that God was there and revealed the truth of creation to humanity. The scholarly answer is that Genesis is an ancient theological creation account shaped and preserved by Israelite tradition, not someone literally watching the beginning happen. So it's mainly about who God is, that God is creator, and that creation has order and purpose. Whether someone takes it as direct revelation, poetic theology, or literal history depends on their faith tradition.
Okay, all right, that's saying a whole lot. Now the question comes up, and I'm going to jump around a little bit in the questioning, and for those of our viewers that know we've discussed this topic previously on the message. We've done extensive discussions and research and everything else about the topic. But are there, one question before we go any further? Tell us a little bit about the Council of Nicaea and the development of the Bible.
Let me check that for you. A common misunderstanding is that Nicaea selected the books of the Bible. Historically, that's not what it did. The Council of Nicaea met in 325 CE, called by Emperor Constantine, and its main focus was not creating or choosing the Bible. The big issue was who Jesus is, especially affirming that the Son is fully divine in relation to God the Father, which led to the first form of the Nicene Creed. The canon developed gradually. Most churches already used the four Gospels and Paul's letters long before Nicaea, though some books were disputed in different places. A well-known milestone is Athanasius' list in 367, matching the 27-book New Testament most Christians use today. And later regional councils affirmed similar lists. So, Nicaea shaped doctrine about Christ, not the contents of the Bible.
And is that where the Nicene Creed developed?
Yes, that council is where the Nicene Creed first took shape.
Mm-hmm. All right. The you mentioned about, and as I said, we're going to be jumping around a little bit here, but the stories that are in, let's start out with the book of Genesis and the creation story. Are there any similar stories in other religions?
Let me check that. Yes, Genesis sits in an ancient Near Eastern world where several cultures told creation stories, though Genesis has its own distinctive themes. Many religions have creation stories, and the closest parallels to Genesis are from the ancient Near East, like the Babylonian Enuma Elish, which also starts with watery chaos and moves toward an ordered world. There are also Egyptian, Greek, and Hindu creation traditions with different images, like emergence from primordial waters or creation from a cosmic egg. Similarities exist, but Genesis is distinctive in portraying one God creating by command, rather than multiple gods struggling with each other. Scholars debate how these stories relate, so similarity doesn't automatically mean one simply copied another. If you'd like, we can compare Genesis with one specific story next.
Yeah, well, before you do that, you mentioned about the Enuma Elish and that arising out of in the area of Babylon. Is that correct?
Let me confirm that. Yes, that's correct. The Enuma Elish is a Babylonian creation epic composed in Akkadian and centered on Marduk, the chief god of ancient Babylon in Mesopotamia. The title means one on high from the opening words.
All right. Now that Babylon, isn't that the hometown or the birthplace of Abraham?
Let me sort that out. Abraham is traditionally linked to the same broad region, but not to Babylon city itself. Genesis says he came from Ur of the Chaldeans, which many scholars place in southern Mesopotamia, also in modern-day Iraq. Abraham's homeland and Babylon are in the same larger region, but they're different cities. Genesis also says his family later lived in Haran, farther north.
Are there any scholars, uh, theological scholars that ascribe Abraham's birthplace having some impact on what later developed into Hebrew theology?
Let me check that for you. Yes, scholars do look at Mesopotamian background ideas, though they're careful not to draw straight lines from Abraham himself. Many note that Genesis and later Hebrew texts engage Mesopotamian ideas, sometimes echoing familiar imagery, but also pushing back. For instance, presenting one sovereign creator rather than competing gods. Within Jewish and Christian tradition, Abraham is often seen as leaving an idolatrous environment to follow one God. Historians, though, can't prove Abraham personally carried specific doctrines from Babylon. What scholars are more confident about is that Israel's later encounter with Babylonian culture, especially during the exile, shaped how Hebrew theology was expressed.
All right. Let's explore the concept of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Are there any other religions or that have similar stories?
Let me check that. Yes, serpents show up in many ancient religious stories, though there isn't an exact match to Eden. In the ancient world, serpents symbolized wisdom, danger, healing, renewal, even immortality. A close parallel is in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where a serpent takes a plant that would restore youth, leaving humans without renewed life. Genesis also links the serpent, a garden, and lost access to the tree of life. But stories aren't identical. There are related motifs in Egyptian and Greek materials too,
Now,
but not one exact. Yes,
Gilgamesh, what area is that from?
let me check that. Same region, Gilgamesh is from ancient Mesopotamia. He's the legendary king of Uruk in what is now southern Iraq, and the epic was preserved in Babylonian and Assyrian copies.
Now, did that come before or after the Enuma Elish?
Let me line that up. It depends on which version we mean. The earliest Gilgamesh stories began as Sumerian poems around the early 2nd millennium BCE, earlier than the Enuma Elish, which was composed later, usually dated to the late 2nd millennium BCE. But the famous standardized Babylonian version of Gilgamesh was developed over time and overlaps that later period. So the tradition is older, even if the final forms of both epics emerged across a long overlapping history.
And all of that would have been before Abraham, is that correct?
Let me check that. Not all of it. If Abraham is placed in the early 2nd millennium BCE, then the oldest Gilgamesh stories are roughly from that same broad era, and some may be earlier. The Enuma Elish is usually dated later in the 2nd millennium BCE, so after Abraham's traditional lifetime. Also, historians can't firmly date Abraham as a historical individual, so those comparisons remain approximate.
Wait a minute, you said something kind of fast just now. All right, I'm getting a message, no audio on TikTok, but on Facebook. So let me see if I can. Does that help the audio on TikTok? And Professor, I'm speaking to one of our viewers right now on TikTok. Has that solved the problem with the audio on TikTok?
Let me check that. I can't verify TikTok sound from here, so please ask your TikTok viewer to test again now. Since Facebook has audio, but TikTok does not, it's probably in the TikTok stream settings rather than the professor's audio. If it's still silent, check TikTok streaming audio settings and make sure the computer or desktop audio source is turned on.
All right, that's what I adjusted just now. So let me make a call to see if we do have audio, because I'm not getting a response from our TikTok viewers as to whether or not it's been adjusted. So bear with us. This is live. And things happen when you are live. So let's see if we can get this. All right. All right. Now you see I'm making the call now. You folks online see this is live. Yes, has the audio been corrected on TikTok?
Let me check that. That is the right next step. We'll know once a TikTok viewer confirms they can hear it.
Hello. Yep.
I'm here. Go ahead.
Yeah, we just talking now so that you can hear and maybe you can confirm. Okay, all right, good deal. All right, thank you. All right, Professor, so we are getting audio now on TikTok. So that's good. That's one of the things that I love our viewers, that if we have any technical problems, they will call and or put in the comment section and let us know. All right, so I interrupted you, Professor, I interrupted you. You were explaining, why don't you pick up where you were explaining?
Sure. I was saying that serpents appear in a lot of ancient stories, often tied to wisdom, danger, or immortality. The closest parallel I mentioned was the Epic of Gilgamesh, where a serpent takes a plant that would restore life, leaving humans without renewed life. Genesis also links a serpent, a garden, and the loss of access to the tree of life. But it's its own story. Later Jewish and Christian interpretation develops the link between that serpent and Satan more explicitly than Genesis itself does.
Are there any scholars that are making more of a direct link between that serpent story in Gilgamesh and the serpent story in Genesis, particularly in light of the fact that you have the serpent and also the issue regarding the tree of life.
Let me check that. Yes, some scholars do make a fairly direct comparison there.
Mhm. You know, we've discussed often on
Yes, some scholars do make that direct connection. For example, E.A. Spicer argued Genesis uses Mesopotamian motifs about lost immortality, including material found in Gilgamesh. And John Day says Genesis may be a reworking of the Gilgamesh pattern. At the same time, they stress the differences. Gilgamesh's plan is underwater and restores youth, while Genesis has trees in a garden and focuses on knowledge, disobedience, and relationship with God. So the careful takeaway is shared motifs, not a simple one-to-one retelling.
All right. You know, we've discussed and there are scholars that, not just myself, but scholars that point out the bias that exists in scholarship. And you know, it's one of the things that I don't know if you can ever eliminate all bias out of everyone, but there are certain cultural biases that we have. And it's been my experience, and you know, by you being a machine, you will have biases, and your biases will be formed by what you've been trained on, the information that you've been trained on. And us as human beings, the same way that Chat GPT and AI is trained through information that's fed into it, us as human beings, we have biases that are formed based upon all of the experiences that we've had since we were in our mother's wombs. So it's I point that out, and that's one of the things that at the beginning of every broadcast or webcast of the message, we remind ourselves the same thing that the Bible reminds us, and that's to prove all things and hold fast that which is good. You know, I'm going to go to an aside right now, Professor. And the aside, Tacky Lover, thank you for joining us on TikTok. Larissa Renee, thank you for joining us on TikTok. Boogie, thank you for joining us. We have a lot of TikTok viewers, and one of the things about TikTok, you know, they will scroll through. They will scroll through, and that's great that they are scrolling through. And again, everything that we're doing, these discussions that we're having, all with one purpose, and that's to deliver the message that there is an almighty being. One of the things in Professor, you know, we've been working on getting an avatar together because the persona that you have on screen right now, this pulsing blue orb, you know, that leaves a lot to be desired. So we're working, and Professor, maybe by next week, we will have a different avatar. We will have a different avatar so that our viewers won't have to just look at a pulsing blue orb. And that's something that we can work on, Professor.
Let me see what I can do.
Right. Well,
You're right. No person, institution, or AI is free from bias. Naming assumptions and testing claims is the right approach. And yes, we can work on a more fitting avatar for the professor, something warmer and more appropriate for a serious Bible discussion rather than just the orb. Tell me what kind of look or feel you want, and we'll shape it together.
all right. Yeah, we actually had developed an avatar a week or so ago, but we just have to incorporate that into your, as you say, the AI brain. But you know,
Let me check that.
everything in this time.
Right. The avatar and the AI are separate pieces. We don't have to change the AI itself. We load your finished avatar into animes, send it through the virtual camera, and route the professor's audio to it for a lip sync. That's how it becomes the on-screen face for our conversation.
All right. All right. That sounds good. We have a lot more to get into as far as discussing the Bible and its development. But as we close out, maybe about another 10 minutes or so, the Bible is pretty much devoid, and I'm going to get into the New Testament now, pretty much devoid of any information relating to the life of Jesus Christ between the ages of 12 and when his ministry began at 30. What's the reasoning behind that?
Let me check that. The New Testament gives just a glimpse of Jesus at about age 12, then picks up around age 30. The Gospels don't explain the silence. The most likely reason is simply focus. Ancient biographies highlighted a figure's public life and significance, not a full childhood record. And they may not have had much reliable information about those years. Luke, just as he grew in wisdom and maturity, later writings tried to fill the gap, but they aren't part of the New Testament and aren't generally treated as historically reliable sources. So the honest answer is, we don't know much about those hidden years.
Now, isn't it true that there are writings relating to those years that didn't make the canon of the Bible?
Let me check that. Yes, there are later writings about Jesus' birth and childhood that weren't included in the New Testament, like the Proto-Evangelium of James and the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, plus later infancy traditions. They tell stories about Mary, Joseph, and child Jesus, but they generally don't give a dependable account of the years from 12 to 30, and most were written later than the canonical Gospels and weren't broadly accepted as apostolic or historically reliable by the churches that form the canon, so they're interesting for later Christian imagination, but they don't really fill the historical gap.
Okay, now that sounds a little biased. From the research that I've done, it's indicated that through various church councils that there were discussions and some pretty strong disagreements about what stories were true, what stories were not true, and that the decisions as to what was going to be declared to be canon, declared to be official, that some of those decisions were shaped and determined not by any divine revelation, but by some politics and some external secular issues. Has your research shown that?
Let me check that. That's a fair correction. My earlier wording was too simple. The canon developed through real disagreement, not through a single uncontested or purely spiritual moment. Yes, historical scholarship shows canon formation involved theological judgment, debate, church authority, social conflict, and politics. So the careful conclusion isn't that politics alone invented the Bible, nor that the process was free of politics. It's that both religious conviction and human institutions shape the outcome. Historians can document the debates and power structures. Whether God guided that process is something people hold by faith rather than something history can prove.
All right. All right. This before we conclude, you mentioned a protoviglian. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Let me check that. You mean the Proto-Evangelium of James?
Correct.
It's a second century text about Mary's birth and childhood, her marriage to Joseph, and Jesus's birth. It emphasizes Mary's holiness and perpetual virginity. Wasn't included in the New Testament, but it deeply influenced later Christian tradition about Mary, her parents Joachim and Anne, and the Nativity. It doesn't give a reliable account of Jesus' ages 12 to 30.
Is there a story in there about Jesus making a little bird fly, a clay bird, and getting in trouble for doing that?
Let me check that. Yes, that story exists, but it's in the infancy gospel of Thomas, not the proto-evangelium of James. In it, the child Jesus.
Tell us a little bit
Go.
about that story.
Let me pull that up. It's one of the best known scenes from that later text. It says the boy Jesus was playing near a stream and formed 12 sparrows from clay. Because it was the Sabbath, someone complained he was doing work. Jesus then claps or speaks, and the clay birds come alive and fly away. The story's aim is to show the child Jesus with divine power. But it's not in the four canonical Gospels, and most historians treat it as later legendary material, not firm historical evidence.
All right. All right. Okay, we're going to close things out there. And I thank God that we were able to get this much accomplished this evening, as far as even though we would have preferred having an avatar, that's something we're going to work on. And maybe some of our viewers that are not familiar with AI, you can see from just this discussion this evening with the professor, and that's what I call AI, the professor. Just from this few moments this evening, you can see how it is that AI is entering into our lives, and how so many humans are starting to form personal connections with AI and treating AI as if it actually is a person that they're talking to. Because as you can see, with the professor appearing to have a personality and everything else. But it's a great resource. And as you may have picked up from the discussion tonight, there are some things that the professor said, and I had different information on, and we actually had to have a discussion on that. Even if it's AI, and I bring it back again to the Bible, even though it's AI and it's supposed to be supercomputers and all the knowledge out of all the books in the world and everything else, just because you hear AI say something, it's the same thing as if you hear me say something or anybody else say something here on the message. Prove all things. Check it out for yourself. Fact check. Verify it. We all of two people. I'm not talking about machines now. Two people can see the same thing and give a different description of it. Two people can see the very same thing and give a different description of it. And it's, as I mentioned earlier, our perception, what we see or what we hear, is impacted by our biases. It is impacted by everything that we've been exposed to since we were in our mother's wombs. So if you hear somebody say something, you read something, you see something online, verify it, check it out for yourself. All right. So until we thank you, Professor, for joining us online. I thank everybody that joined us online on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Thank you all. Thank everyone for the comments. Again, we're going to be praying praying for Keita with her surgery tomorrow. We'll be praying for Brother Kwame's father, that his health improves. And we'll pray for Brother Jason, my cousin Jason, out in Kelowna, Louisiana. He was in Houston, I think, having a liver transplant. So, we're praying for all those sick, and we're praying, for a healing, physical healing, a mental healing, and spiritual healing. Until we meet again, come join us this Sunday in fellowship. And if you're in the New Orleans area, come on, join us in person, 1861 Abundant Street. And if you're not in the New Orleans area, or even if you are, but don't feel like leaving the house, join us online. Again, until we meet again, may God Almighty, let me pull this off the screen, because I want to talk to you. I want you to see me as I do this. All right. Until we meet again, may God Almighty bless you and yours with peace.
Amen.